First off, I want to give a special shout out to Marlo Diggs, Marlo Beats, Sidario Home Studios, and DJ Direct for this topic. A lot of people need to be more respectful about where their source material comes from, so I'm just trying to keep it 100. Though people ask me this question, MPC versus DAW, which is better, or why should you get an MPC over your DAW? People always come to my videos and leave comments about this all the time. They ask me why should they buy a MPC or a groove box versus making music on a computer. Some people even leave these types of messages in my comment section almost every single video. Look, I get it. You do not want to make beats on something that you deem to be inferior to a desktop or laptop computer, and respectfully too. I understand people have their taste and their choices. And the main thing is that they call it dated and out of touch. However, I find it quite compelling, and I thank you guys for coming up to my videos and leaving comments because, Lord, hey, look, I do this for a living, and y'all views, whether it be positive or negative, your feedback is appreciated. If you think I'm jumping to the defense of the MPC, well, I ain't gonna hold you, bruh. You're right, but not without acknowledging a couple of cold hard facts about desktop or laptop production versus an MPC. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and tell you that the desktop or laptop computers are far superior than any of the MPCs out right now. Given if you pay something around the same price as an MPC Key 61 or MPC XSE, yes, that means that you're gonna have to spend real money to get your computer to be up to snuff with competing with any of the modern day MPCs, and I'll further elaborate on that right now. What do I mean by that? Well, the MPCs of today only carry about 2 to 4 gigs of RAM. So all the MPCs except for the MPC XSE and the MPC Key 61 have 2 gigs of RAM. I know. That's one of the biggest talking points of a lot of people. The sky's the limit when it comes to desktop or laptop computers because you have a myriad of choices of software that you can pick up. You can use every single DAW if you wanted to. If you want to focus on one DAW, there are tons of great free plugins, not to mention paid plugins, third-party plugins, and even your DAW comes with stock sounds that will be phenomenal. I mean, FL Studio does a very good job of bringing a complete package if you spend the $800 on their DAW. So how does the MPC stack up? Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, it stacks up pretty well if you look at a couple of things. The first one is low audio latency. This is something that not many people focus on, but one of the things that catch people off guard when they are first experiencing their desktop or laptop computer is the latency for when you record vocals on your computer, or even sometimes when you mess with certain samples and you don't know anything about the ISO drivers, given if you're using a Windows-based computer, which could be a complete nightmare, versus something like an Apple-based computer, which doesn't have any third-party ISO drivers. They just have stock core audio drivers, and they are pretty low in latency. I will give it to them when you're talking about Apple game. And that's just from my experience with using my MacBook Air M1. Mind you, I have a base model of that, and I was blown away. You still have a way more audio latency from one device to another, and that has a lot to do with the USB Type A or even Type C. And if you're an Apple-based producer, well, Thunderbolt, even though it's fast, still has a little bit of latency, though it is extremely low. Now, I will give it that. I actually have a video about that topic. I'll have it linked in the description box because some people don't know about that and changing up buffer rates. And what if you have a computer that can't handle a certain level of buffer rates? Well, that will happen because sometimes people don't know anything about what you're gonna do when you buy a computer. I've had tons of videos on it. I've seen people drop in their specs and say, well, you think this is worth the time for making music or whatever? And I'm like, dude, you're only paying $200 for something that barely has USB Type A ports. Nonetheless, if you're gonna buy an audio interface that has some of the audio drivers, core audio drivers for your Windows-based desktop laptop. And just like number one, there's number two, and that is MIDI latency. And A lot of people don't understand that as well. When you're dealing with any of the modern day MPCs or any group box on the market, the latency will be extremely low. It comes with an audio interface that is basically configured for your production on that particular group box. All those things do matter. And when you get something like FL Studio, unless you're like mouse clicking or something like that, and there's nothing wrong, I'm not dissing, guys. Of course, the more money that you spend on your desktop, laptop, you will probably have a little less latency. It's not as much as it was when I first started out. Computers were complete and utter dog shit. But now every desktop or laptop computer has the capabilities of having running a MIDI device. They are considered to have that. But what if you use so many different USB drives, you use up all your hubs, or you don't have 3.0 on your desktop or laptop computer, which is more than unlikely, but most people don't know what 3.0 is versus this, and why Type-C matters or why Thunderbolts matters. You don't have to worry about any of that if you are messing with an MPC of any type, because you will have not only low audio latency, you will have low MIDI latency, and those things matter when you're creating music, especially if you are a day-to-day composer or somebody that's a musician that plays the keys. You'll notice a couple of things like that. I mean, I noticed when I mess with pads on my Ableton Push versus when I mess with the pads on my MPC Live X1 and all that. And that brings us to the third one. It includes an audio interface. One of the biggest things that you see in arguments that you see is that there's people that don't like the Scarlett 2i2, and you know, there's people that get mad when you tell them that the Scarlett 2i2 isn't the best audio interface for the job. And then, you know, some people say it's relevant and all this other stuff. And you just can't get into your music production the way you are. Or you might play the guitar and you got to buy a certain audio interface for that and all this other stuff. Well, the MPC, not only does the MPC have its own built-in IOs and stuff like that in consideration, well, you can just add an audio interface to it if you don't have the outs that you need or the ins that you need, or you want to run a send and return type setup or whatnot. I mean, still, it's more money spent, but hey, it's going to be something that is more efficient for music than, you know, your desktop or laptop computer. Number 4, kind of a small one, but I still think it's relevant. If you have a Key 37, Key 61 or whatnot, well, it comes with keys. I mean, it comes with a MIDI controller in general, because again, that's another peer pressure thing that you will see all over the YouTube streets, our GearTube world, is this audio interface or this MIDI controller is better than this MIDI controller, and this MIDI controller has this over that MIDI controller and all this other stuff. And when you basically buy a group box, whether it be an MPC or otherwise, dude, all of that's taken care of for you. And they all have catered to people, musicians like us, that thoroughly enjoy playing stuff, so that it's going to have certain calibrations and many different things that you can do within the MPC OS, where you can adjust the velocity and stuff. Well, my next one, I don't think this is a really solid point, but I'll still say this, it's less distracting. When you make music on your desktop or laptop computer, remember, just put in consideration that these things can do a myriad of stuff. The sky's the limit. Yes, you can do a whole bunch of things on there, but there's also things that might distract you. Many people do not use their desktop or laptop computers just for one thing, and making music. You know, some of us privileged mofos might have a dedicated desktop, laptop computer for music production, and then we'll have one for whatever else that's out there for you to do. I'm just saying. But nonetheless, though, the notifications and all that can get in your way. I mean, even with the iPad, and I know there are people that will say, oh, I can turn off notifications, but damn, what if you forget to turn them back on? Or what if someone's trying to reach out to you? You know, that's one of those things. And if you are that spoiled to where you can have a tablet, a phone, a computer or whatnot, is that spoiled these days? I mean, I think that's pretty normal. But yeah, less distracting. You get right to the point with your music. All it does is make music, and that's the most important thing. The next one, clearly, this could be for a certain group of people. If you are considering buying an MPC, I mean, it's more entertaining to see someone make beats on an MPC. I mean, all the time I look at Beats by J Black and many different other people that perform on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts and all that, and it's more digestible than anything. I mean, Which one would you rather see? Someone finger drumming, showing you massive skill sets on a MPC, or would you want to see someone just pushing their smartphone in front of the screen? I mean, no hate or anything like that, but we all know what engagement's about. Or at least I would hope, right? As a content creator. I don't know. More of a number 7, cognitivity. It sharpens you know what? It sharpens your skills, goddammit. I'm just saying. And it helps with your coordination too. Doing something with muscle memory, it's just like playing a video game. Like if you're someone that plays like Street Fighter 6 all the time versus someone that, you know, maybe casually plays it, I'm pretty sure the person that has put in the work will outshine well, it's supposed to be like that, but you know, we all know when it comes to video games, people just do random things. But just to say this, I think it's important to sharpen up your skills, and that's one of the things that the MPC Key 37 does for me. I work on the keys and work on my pad work and just try to get better. You know, that's the main thing about it. And then it gets kind of addictive when you see results from that. Number 8 has hit home with a lot of GearTube commentators, and it has to do with minimalism. A lot of us, we get tons of crap for our desktop and laptop computers. And there's plenty of apps that I have not used on my iPad that are meant for music, but I very rarely use my iPad for music. And that's just money wasted. And when, yes, I get it, the MPCs of this time, the cheapest one is probably $700. You know, might go on sale a little lower. You might catch one on eBay for $400 to $500. Who knows? But getting into these, it's an investment. But at the same time, it's not an investment that you'll find yourself doing almost every single week. And then clearly, with desktop and laptop computers, there's people that get gear, and one of the main things that they'll argue is like, man, I can get free software anywhere. We all know when someone says they can get free software, what that means. You know what they're doing. They are out there living their best life on some Johnny Depp Pirates of the Caribbean type shit. They are illegal as fuck. Legal, illegal, buying it, pirating it. It's time wasted because you're searching for something when in the limited world of the MPC, you're going to try to figure something out. You're going to become a great problem solver, a great engineer, because you're working with less. Less is more all the time. And then if you want to buy an extra piece of gear along with it, you know, you might spend $200 plus on something, I don't know, the Roland Boutique series, or, you know, whatever else is out there. Some stuff from Sonicware, the Sonicware Liven series and Expanded. You know, there's plenty of things out there, but 9 times out of 10, you won't need that because the MPC comes with more than enough for you to produce and make your music and whatnot. From my anecdotal experience, if I was to talk about how much VST plugins and software I buy every single year, it's always around $1,000 or $2,000. And it's lessened up a little bit, if not a whole lot, because I work with the MPCs now and I'm spending less money. I got more money in my pocket to do other things. And, you know, I guess we can say that's a very good investment for that. And yes, I do understand that you can buy plugins for the MPC and they are quite expensive. I think the Fabric collection is wild, but you know, I can talk about that on the business sense when it comes down to that. And then it also goes on sale too. And then my last and final reason I think has to be this, would be your desktop or laptop computer isn't made for music. Now, I think I've talked about that loosely with all my other points, but when you get a desktop or laptop computer, there's many different things that it's considered to do over music. Music is like a small fraction of what they experience. And that's why if you're a Windows-based music producer, it can be quite painful for you to figure out all this extra stuff that you need to do. I mean, I remember my first anecdotal experience with making music on a desktop laptop computer, and granted, I'm old as hell, that experience was ridiculous. And then I still see people mentioning how difficult it is for them to create music and get rid of latency, and what is latency and what is MIDI drivers and all these things. And many companies do a great job of excelling at making sure your experience is less annoying than what it was for me when I was coming up. You feel me? A lot of that has changed, but that hasn't changed the point that your desktop or laptop computer isn't solely dedicated for music. It wasn't considered for music. If it was, then it would have everything that the MPCs and other groove boxes on the market have, because they make those OSs for that particular groove box, meaning that all of the audio calibration is there, the MIDI latency is abysmal at that point. It's pretty much pinpoint accurate when you're playing stuff. Every sound that comes in there is considered for whatever genre of music, you know, that could be to each his own on that one, I guess. And all the other things, it's meant for music, and that's what we create, right? To the right of me, I have more content for that ass. Make sure that you subscribe. How do you think about these talking points here? I took some time to come up with some stuff of main reasons why you should mess with an MPC or any other groove box from any other company over your desktop or laptop computer.